Welcome back, 7th graders. Today I'm going to look at Chapter 1, Section 1, specifically the characteristics of life. And so our learning objectives are, or there's actually only one, what characteristics do all living things share? So in order to be considered a living thing, you actually have to be able to do all of these characteristics. So remember when we do Edpuzzle notes, you want to hit pause and then take the notes that are on the slide and then resume. So pause. So an organism is a living thing that has all of these characteristics of life. And if it does, then we classify it as a living thing, okay? So first characteristic is called organization. Basically, the organism has to be made up of cells. And cells, I know we haven't really dived too deep into what cells are. Cells are the smallest unit of life. All living things are made up of cells. So if you want to think about like a Lego, like a Lego car or an X-Wing fighter, whatever, the blocks would be considered the cells, okay? And then the living thing would be whatever object it makes up of. I know X-Wing fighters are not living, but you get the idea that cells are building blocks for life. Now cells, sometimes living things are just made up of one cell. And if they are, then we call it unicellular, okay? So if we look at this prefix here, una means one, right? Like unicycle, one wheel. So unicellular means one cell. Multicellular means it's going to be made up of many cells. So over here I have some plant cells, and this is a multicellular organism. These are cheek cells, again from a multicellular organism. Now some examples of unicellular organisms: bacteria, germs. They tend to be one-celled organisms. Second characteristic is growth and development. So hit pause. So growth and development means that they're going to grow, and then maybe they're going to get a little bit more complex or specialized if it's multicellular. So in unicellular and only unicellular organisms, one-celled organisms, the cell will increase in size. It doesn't do development, it just grows. It can't do development because it's not made of many cells. Now in multicellular organisms, we do see growth and development, okay? So multicellular organisms, they grow as the number of cells increases. If I were to bring my daughter into class and ask you a question, who has more cells? I hope you would say me, okay? I have more cells than my daughter. She may exceed the number of cells of me by either, by growing taller than me, but the larger the object has, typically the more number of cells that they have. So we're going to grow as our number of cells increase, okay? And then development means that the cells become specialized. And specialized means it's only going to carry out a certain job. So we have over 100 different types of cells inside of our body. We have brain cells, eye cells, skin cells, cheek cells, tongue cells, lung cells, liver cells, so on and so forth. And they all do a special job to help us live. Okay, so like cells of the stomach, they help us digest and absorb food, right? Cells of the eye, they help detect light and perceive color, right? We had that whole conversation of how do we see color? So cells do different jobs. That's what specialized means. They do different jobs. So here are some examples of some cells. It says gut-like epithelium, which is skin covering. Muscle cells. In fact, this is smooth muscle. Epidermis means skin again. Neurotissues, neurons, adipose tissue, fat tissue, basically fat cells. Cartilage, those are made up of cells, the cushion between your bones. All right, new slide of notes, pause. Reproduction. So reproduction just means you're going to make one or more new organisms. And in order to basically exist as a species, you have to be able to make copies of yourself. So you must produce offspring like themselves to continue to exist, to pass on your hereditary traits, your DNA. There are different ways to reproduce, and we'll talk about these more in depth this year. I mean, I swear we're going to revisit asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction several times this year. But asexual just means that it does not require a mate. They literally divide themselves into two, and as a result, they look like clones. And clones means identical. So if humans could reproduce asexually, that means that I would literally split myself into two and there would be two Mrs. Ericksons and they would be exactly the same. So some cells, especially bacteria, tend to do this, and they can do this very quickly. That's why maybe in the morning, sometimes you're like, oh, my throat's a little scratchy. And then by the afternoon, you're like, oh my gosh, my throat is on fire and I don't feel good. Well, bacteria cells can divide pretty rapidly. Now, sexual reproduction means that the organism literally has to find mates, and we have this combination of the sex cells combined, and as you can see here in this picture, with sperm and egg. So sexual just means that you need a mate, or you need another adult, basically, like another parent. Okay. All right. The fourth characteristic of life, hit pause. Responses to stimuli. So first off, I know we probably don't know what stimuli is. So stimuli is any change in your environment, okay? Like literally any change in your environment, and then how do you respond to that? So we actually have some internal stimuli like hunger, like when you're hungry, your stomach might growl and start to secrete some digestive juices to, say, hey, give me some food. When you're thirsty, you have a mechanism. It's like, hey, I am kind of thirsty, better go get a drink of water. Okay, we also have so this happens inside of us, like inside your body. Now, external stimuli means that there's changes that happen outside of your body, like light. Okay, you're sleeping, your room is dark, mom comes in, flips on the light switch. Boom, that's an external stimuli. How are you going to react? You might startle, or maybe throw the blanket over your head. Okay, so that's like how you would respond to that stimuli. Plants do this. They follow the light, all right? Sunflowers, you watch their heads during the day. They follow sunlight. Temperature is an external stimuli. If you come to my room and my room is chilly, you might go to your locker and grab a sweater, or if you don't have one, then you might shiver, and shiver is a response to respond to that coldness. Flying objects. If I were to throw a ball at someone's head, you're either going to like flinch and try to protect yourself. That is a stimuli. You're responding to your environment. All right, another characteristic, homeostasis. Okay, big word there. Hopefully you should practice saying it. So hit pause. All right, so homeostasis, an organism's ability to maintain steady internal conditions when outside conditions change. So what that means is that your body temperature is around 98.6 degrees, and your body does a pretty good job maintaining that internal condition. You can go outside in winter where it's 30 below, and your temperature is not going to drop to 30 below. It's going to stay pretty close to that 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. So what's going on here? Well, let's just say that your body's almost like a thermostat at 98 degrees Fahrenheit. And, we get that Indian summer in the fall, sun's out, super, super hot, you sweat, okay? That's a response to a stimulus right here, heat. You sweat. Sweating is actually a cooling process. So you sweat, you perspire, and your sweat evaporates, and it cools you down and brings you back down to 98. Or in the case of my cold classroom, maybe temperatures dip below 98 degrees Fahrenheit or whatever, and you shiver, and that's trying to bring your body back up to that 98 degrees Fahrenheit. So a lot of times homeostasis is like a thermostat. Now we have this for other systems inside of our body, like pH level, blood sugar level, but this is just the case of body temperature. So why is homeostasis important? Well, cells are living things, and they can only live in a certain range of temperature, of pH. They just like certain conditions that they can thrive in. And if you have it too hot or too cold, well, then the cell's not going to work right. So when it says ensures function, function means its job. It's going to continue to carry out its job without fail. All right. Another characteristic is energy. Hit pause. Okay, energy. Everything you do requires energy. Okay, your cells need energy all the time. They make their own energy, but you need to eat food molecules to help make that energy. Okay, So you intake starches and disaccharides and lipids and proteins that you break down so you can make energy to carry out important processes. Your cell's like literally a miniature city. It's got like a nucleus that acts like city hall. It's got lysosomes that act like garbage men that take out waste products. It's got proteins that literally make things like construction workers. So everything you do requires energy. You just sitting here like listening to this video requires energy. And the cool thing about energy is that you can trace it back to the sun. Think about what you ate. I just ate a Cliff Bar. And the ingredients of this Cliff Bar, organic brown rice syrup. Okay, sugar, nice. Organic rolled oats. Okay, oats. So oats are plants, and plants take in sunlight. You know, or if you had eggs and bacon for breakfast. Okay, eggs, chicken. Chicken eats feed. Feed is a plant. Trace back to the sun. Bacon. Pigs eat plants. Plants, sun. See the connection there? All right, so that does it for 1.1 characteristics of life. You need to have energy, homeostasis, responses to stimuli, reproduction, growth and development, and cells in order to be considered a living thing. All right, that does it today. Take care.